Hi, everybody. Happy Tuesday. It's Nancy from American Pet Professionals, and welcome to another episode of Digging into the Pet Industry. Every week, we bring you a new guest talking about their story in the pet industry, and we're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. So, wherever you are watching from, thank you so much for being here. And today, I am so excited to be bringing you Janene Nadolny-Jimenez of Pet Dropshipper. Hey,
Hey
Janene.
everyone. Hey, good afternoon. Hi everyone.
So happy you're here, Janene. I know. So I'm
Thank
on
you.
Long Island and Janine's in New Jersey. So we're both suffering from the heat, like most of the country today.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we might, if you see a little fanning happening at some point, that might
yeah.
happen.
It's a
So
steam
Janene,
room.
it is a steam room. So Janene, I'm so happy to have you here today and talk about pet drop shipping. But I want to jump back before you started your business and dig in and tell me how you got into the pet industry.
Oh, it goes way back into my childhood. I was one of those kids that would come home with every stray animal I could possibly find, whether it was, a kitten or a puppy or a bird or I found frogs. So I was one of those children that was always loved animals, always brought pets home. And I live in New Jersey and I live in the metro area in New Jersey. So eighth grade, I was able to get a summer job and worked in a local store catching fish and crickets and those kinds of things. And then eventually moved on throughout high school, working at a veterinarian in my hometown, and then working in the malls. I'm not sure if everybody remembers, but in the late 80s, early 90s, pet stores in the malls were really popular. And that's really where I gained a lot of my footing. Products came very naturally to me. I was always so inquisitive as to what is this for and what animal could use this and this is so cool and things like that. So products were always something really exciting to me. When new products came into the store, I really loved it. And of course, I stayed within the industry. And we always joke, right? Like people move within the industry, but they don't really leave the industry
Right.
too much. In my high school years, I worked in the stores, in the malls. And then from there, I grew and having, this affinity for products, I became a buyer. And from a buyer, I then became, general manager and worked alongside our main buyers. And then in 2003, 2004, I was recruited as a sales rep to work for a couple of the independent brands, which some of them are still around today and some of them are not. But I thought it was a new and exciting shift because it was definitely more product geared. But now I'm pounding the pavement, visiting stores.
Yeah.
And again, my area is Metro New York. And thankfully, I know New York City very well, having grown up here and having my fair share of fun as a young
How
person.
didn't
you,
we
you
all?
know, didn't we all? So I knew the city really well. Lots of boutique brands that were independently owned and operated that weren't being distributed, whether they were just not extremely high volume, but they were exciting. And in the early 2000s, the boutique-ish kind of products really took off, and I really excelled there, having built relationships in the Metro New York area. I covered all of New York, all of New Jersey, and then of course some of those New York, New Jersey stores had a few locations in Pennsylvania, and then had a few locations in Connecticut or in the Hudson Valley and things like that. And then what happened to really parlay into the pet drop shipping business is that I would hear so many times from small retailers, my customers are not buying this anymore; they're buying it online.
Mm,
And it really struck me because these are small independent store owners. They're really, their whole life revolves around the consumer walking in with their dog and then being
yeah.
able to have a conversation, whether it's about food and nutrition, or showing them the latest toy, or servicing them for something that maybe it's indestructible, or maybe they have a small, delicate dog, or whatever the case may be. And it really hurt me in a way because I was like, God, these are like the hardest working people I know. What can I do to help? And I've always been the helper type. And I said, maybe I could start buying product, especially on the boutique side where they don't have to hit minimums.
And what year
So
was that? Around 2000, you
this
said?
Well, I had started initially in 2004, but I would say this was probably closer to like 2010.
Okay.
And I started to buy, Halloween costumes. Halloween costume brands, they have a minimum of $500. Well, and there's terms for this. Now they call it co-oping. And I would buy, I'd take the orders for all the costumes, or I'd take the orders for all these, fancy dog beds that had, a $500 minimum. And then I would literally distribute them out of my car. And I would bill them.
Wow.
They'd write me a check. I'd buy it up front. They'd write me a check. And then eventually realizing that, I needed an easier way for them to be able to place orders, maybe putting it together on a website. And then
So that was for the retailer, right? So you were housing the product so they could have their customers then buy that product that they used to buy from somebody else online and then save the space in their store for the stuff that was selling constantly, correct?
Exactly.
Cool.
So then, of course, that really we just built on that and built on that and built on that. And it's been since, I really want to say it took full effect in 2013.
Okay.
Where we then were able to start bringing in more products. And currently we carry over 275 brands and 17,000 SKUs.
That's crazy. So wait, let me step back. So you were selling out of your car, which is, you kind of skipped over that real quick, which is an amazing
Well, I was co-oping. So I would, visit, 4 stores on the Upper West Side and say, hey, do you need Halloween costumes? And depending on the neighborhood, right? Like every store has its own, neighborhood. So maybe this is a small dog neighborhood. They're going to buy all these cute little bumblebees and firefighters, where maybe, downtown there's, Washington Square Park in Manhattan. So downtown stores might have more of a larger dog community. They're going to buy, all of these. But in order for them to be able to buy just a few $100s worth of stuff and not have to commit, because of course, Halloween costumes, I'm using this as an example, but that's a seasonal item. It's a lot to commit in a small store. And having my demographic been New York City, I mean, some pet stores in New York City are only 700 to 1,000 square feet.
Tiny. Yeah.
Tiny. I know, it's small. So it really gave stores an opportunity to be able to get a little bit and pepper these things into their store without having to make this astronomical financial commitment.
Right.
And I would just say, all right, I have, these 3 boxers are going to the West Side stores. I'm going to go see them today. And I would drop them off. So it was kind of like, very
literally drop shipping.
Literally drop shipping.
That's crazy.
And
I love it.
That was, and some of them I would have to ship them. I mean, some of them were, because then eventually it turned into Halloween costumes, carriers, dog beds,
all the things,
and then brands that weren't in distribution, so they had to buy those things anyway.
Yeah.
So if stores were like, oh, I'd love to buy this, but I don't have enough for the minimum, I'm like, don't worry about it.
That's exactly what I was just going to say, because a lot of times those stores with 700 square feet, they can't buy the minimum that is expected from the pet product manufacturer because they only have a certain amount, or they know how much they're going to sell, right? So exactly. I think,
or they have a budget,
right? Yes,
and a budget that says, absolutely. And the savvy ones will have a budget that says, we have, we've been putting away X amount of dollars to be able to buy these, more boutique-ish items for holiday season, which is the reason why holiday was the biggest catalyst to involve. To get involved.
So cool. I love that story. So like, I know what you're doing, but just the fact that you were like literally in your car taking products, saying this is where I'm going to go with this targeted. I know my audience so well, my pet retailer clients, the ones that are going to, jump at this and it'll make their lives easier. So how did you go from that to then your massive company that you have now with, what'd you say, 75,000 products? Am I saying
17,000?
17,000 product SKUs. And how did you go from there to having a warehouse?
Step by step.
Yeah.
This is a truly Rome wasn't built in a day conversation, and I tell everyone who I speak to that wants drop shipping and wants to get involved, or some people who aren't in the pet industry and they're like, I love the pet industry, I want to get in the pet industry. Yep. It's work. It's just been hard work. One of my highest compliments that people in the industry have paid me, and other people that I know pay me, is that no one works harder. My work ethic is really what has got us here as quickly as it has. And of course, I have help now. My husband came into the business very quickly after, when he saw how busy and how much potential there was. And he's been in grocery his whole life.
Okay.
And
So
if
he has a
anybody,
similar,
huge help in the sense of volume and buying and discounts and pricing and all those kinds of things. So it's nice to have, that in my corner. So, but it's been step by step, brand by brand. When we first started out, people were like, I don't understand what your business is. Please don't talk to me. Go away. And I'm like, okay, but let me tell you a story, because this is what people are looking for. There's lots of people looking for that. Online is everywhere now.
Yep.
And if the pandemic hasn't shown us that people want convenience, people want simplicity, people want to, order things and have them come on an ongoing basis. They want to just order something and know that it's going to be on its way every month.
I didn't mean to laugh at your comment, but I can relate to that so much, Janene, because I got that question all the time at the beginning of my career. I don't understand what you do. What do you do? What do you do? Yeah. So the explanation and learning the marketing properly so people would understand it in the simplistic terms isn't always easy when you're starting a business.
No, but I'm a talker, so I'm like, great. Let me get all this energy out, And
so when did you hire your first, besides your husband, you and your husband, when did you start hiring a staff to help you?
Well, just like any grassroots business, my mom came on the weekends, and then my brother would pick up orders from our distributorships, and then my younger brother would come by. My younger brother's in construction, so some of the winter months, construction sites would get shut down due to weather, and he's like, hey, come on in, and then so it started. A lot of it was with my family.
That's
my
great.
family got involved very, very quickly, and then I would say 2 years before the pandemic, so 2018 is when we eventually evolved, and now you have payroll and employees and things like that. So 2018, so within 5 years.
Okay. All right. That's cool.
Within 5 years.
So in layman's terms, I know what dropshipping is. You obviously know what it is, but explain it to somebody that is just hearing about dropshipping for the first time.
So dropshipping is when you're ordering products to have them shipped to your store. And there's a couple of different terms, and as I've learned throughout conversations, distributors will drop ship products that they don't carry all of the SKUs exactly how we do it. So it's, drop shipping specific brands to your store. But the real essence of drop shipping is, drop shipping for your website, products that you have that you want to go to your customer. And when those products are shipped from a drop shipper like us to your customer, they're shipped blindly. There's no tracing of, pet drop shipper, such and such an address. It's a very generic return address, shipping department. So it looks very professional. There's no labels or tags or invoices in the boxes and things like that. So hypothetically, Nancy, if you had a website and you had customers going on there because you want to carry these large dog beds that can't fit in your store, you can have your customers go on your site, log in, place the order for it, and they'll pay for it, and then it'll ship directly to them. So it's taking that added step out of your hands as a store owner to be able to have more products than you would physically be able to offer in your store, or secondarily have the time to facilitate those orders. You're busy running your business and you're talking to customers about nutrition and skin and coat issues. Do you really have time to, slap a label on a box, print a label, run the credit card, weigh the package? So this is a service that gives you an opportunity to grow your products in your store without the overhead, because you're only paying for what's already sold.
Right. And it makes it so seamless and easy for that pet store owner to sell more products. Do
Sure.
pet store owners have, like, say, a sample of the product in their store or pictures? Maybe they don't have room for 10 dog beds or and they only have one. And they say, like, a QR code, like, "Hey, go right here, hit that, and you can order it from us, and it'll be sent directly
I'm
to
sure
you."
some of them do. So many of them have very creative ways of creating business. So, of course, they don't want to always necessarily share with that. It's like their proprietary
Right.
secret. And I
Yeah,
respect that and I
totally.
appreciate that. For us, because we have every SKU from every brand, so hypothetically, a Stella and Chewy or a Earth Bath, we have every SKU where stores might not always do that. So you
Yeah.
have the opportunity to say, someone comes in and says, "Oh, I just got a puppy. Do you have the Earth Bath Cherry puppy? Oh, wait, I don't have any puppy right now, but we can get it in for you within a day or two."
Gotcha.
And then they can order it online. They can order it in for them, for the customer themselves, and have it shipped to the store. We have stores that will place a weekly order and then have it shipped to the store, and then they're dispersing it out, calling their customers, which I really love that idea.
Yeah.
So, and I'm again, here I go sharing. I love that idea because now you're calling the customer up to come back in to start another conversation. This is on sale. Oh, he looks great. Have you, tried this? Or give them a sample of a treat at the counter. So any way that you can continually be in communication with your customers, your
Yeah.
shampoo is in, come on down, oh, and then as in any good retail business, you're adding on, you're upselling, things like that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Having those upsells at the counter, the information. I love that because I've had a special order through my pet retailer, pet foods in the past and certain products like, hey, I don't have this, or can you bring this in? And within a day or two, they're like, hey, we have the product here. And then you have to go back. And most of the time, customers inevitably buy more. So I think for the bottom line of a pet retailer, it's such a great service that you offer. It's really, really incredible, I think. So,
Thank you.
do you remember your very first customer?
It's probably my mom. It was
You
probably
gotta
my
love that,
mother.
right? It's always the moms.
um that's a great question. I remember how exciting it was, when it wasn't my mom, because of
Right.
course that was my mom. But because I've been in the industry for so many years and covering so many different channels, our first customers might have been those customers that I was buying multi-pet toys and selling them out of my car.
Right.
But as far as the online, customers ordering through the portal, um, that customer is probably still with us today,
Yeah, yeah.
having that advantage. But I think the first customer really was probably my mom.
Oh, I love that. It's always the
Yeah,
moms right there to support. I
yeah,
appreciate that. That's
yeah,
so cool.
yeah, yeah.
So, over the years, as you're growing Pet Dropshipper, what would you say has been some of the hardest parts of it?
Definitely inventory. Since COVID,
Yeah,
there have been so many shortages and unfortunate circumstances that have happened
yeah,
where companies have shut down due to illness, due to not having the bags or the cans and things like that, and that's been very tough,
yeah,
to overcome. And of course, you have customers, and having been on the other side where I've worked in a store, I understand when my customers like, but that's the only food my cat'll eat. I
yeah.
understand that. Believe me, if I could cook it in my kitchen, I
I
would.
know.
I don't want you to go without it either. But we have to come up with a solution. And back to my original, working in the pet store in the mall, I know the products. I'm always coming up with an alternative, whether it's from the same brand or not the same brand, because I know pet food as well. Having been an outside salesperson, as I was saying, in Metro New York, I worked for a dog food company, a raw dog food company. So
Wow.
nutrition has been in my background as well. I forgot to
Yeah,
mention that in the beginning of your questions.
that's okay.
But coming up with products to be able to not have their customer walk away,
Yes.
or having to explain to them. You really have to explain to and hold customers' hands to reassure them and say, no one has this.
Yeah.
There's boats stuck in ports,
Yep.
and there's companies that are shut down for weeks and weeks due to COVID. And, they have to get state authority to reopen.
Yeah. It was crazy.
We've had multiple suppliers using distribution centers outside of our local distribution center sending us product, saying, because you're servicing so many accounts, we're going to keep your account open. And then during COVID, we were one of the, I think, three to five customers that were actually getting product
Yeah.
out of some of the other distribution centers, which was, I couldn't even tell you the gratitude. And I mean, it
Yeah.
was incredible.
I will
So
say
yeah,
that, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was going to say, I think the biggest challenge has been, the inventory,
Yeah.
and things like that.
I was going to say that's a couple of points with planning now, right? We've all been through that pandemic. And as a pet product manufacturer, what can you potentially plan and foresee? Can you have the items in pouches versus the aluminum cans that nobody could get?
Sure,
Like
sure.
you have to start, thinking of those things. We have a member at American Pet Professionals, and she has a product that the one of the companies she works with, they're a brewery for humans for beer, and they pre-ordered cans. They saw the writing on the wall. I don't know, they paid attention, and they ordered their cans like for 2 years worth out, so they would never
Wow.
run out before
Well,
COVID, which I
wow,
thought
that's
was
incredible.
pretty genius that they even, had the foresight to do that. So not everybody has that option to do that, economically or storage wise and all that. But it's just like, how else can you think about doing that? I know when the cat food, like exactly what you were talking about, people were constantly posting in groups, we can't find cat food, and I would be in like the local mom and pop stores, and they'd be filled to the brims with cat food. So I'd be like, hey, there's like 4 cat foods, 4 retail stores, local stores, go there. So, but it did happen to everybody for a while. I know everybody suffered through that.
we did
So,
we did see a lot of transition, right? Like
yeah,
some of the manufacturers that, let's say, would make a 4 ounce, an 8 ounce, and a 16 ounce might have cut out one of those sizes to be able
right.
to facilitate more product.
Yeah,
Maybe the 12 ounce doesn't sell as well as the 4 and the 8 ounce. So now we can get 2 extra bags, one of each, because, of these two products,
yeah.
if we just cut out this. So I've seen a lot of that. We've seen a lot of manufacturers changing packaging,
Hmm.
probably because they're sourcing it within the United States
Yeah,
or looking at something else. And then, of course, you have a massive amount of price increases that have happened.
yeah.
And, with that, price increases are also a lot of times size decreases.
Yep.
Well, manufacturers won't necessarily do a price increase, and everyone tries to stay in line. No one wants to outprice themselves.
Right.
No one wants to do it. We all want
Yeah.
to, just keep the engine going, but
Yeah.
manufacturers will reduce the size of a bag of cat food or a can of dog food or a snack size or something like that in order to, prevent a price increase. But in reality, it's the way that they're offshooting that
Yeah. It's
cost.
interesting.
So,
This,
so there's a lot of changes. There's a lot to keep up with, for sure.
yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure just that part of it alone keeps you very busy paying attention to all of
Yeah,
that.
yeah. We're constantly. I live in spreadsheets all day because you can do the pricing and things like that really quickly.
So even though you're, kind of the in-between person, what is the most important part for you that it comes when it comes to customer service? Because you are very heavy customer service with the B2B.
I think the most important thing is to listen and understand.
Hmm.
Smaller stores are our main clientele. We're drop shipping for, their business. So many of those stores are so busy and understaffed, because that's another issue within many
Yeah.
industries, staffing shortages. So for me, I think I have a lot of patience, and having done so many of the different jobs within the industry, I've been there. I understand when someone doesn't show up and you're in the store all by yourself.
Yeah.
In the mall, it was puppy stores. So it was,
Yeah.
someone didn't show up. It was like, who's going to feed the dogs? Who's going to clean the kennels? Who's going
Yeah.
to run the register? Who's going to open the gate? So I understand all of those things. I try to communicate as compassionately and empathetically as possible. So to me, customer service is really just about listening. Most people are very reasonable. Everyone really wants to work well together.
Yeah.
That I'm very appreciative of. So to me, it's that's the most important thing.
That's great. That's one of the things I absolutely love about the pet industry is how everybody really wants to work together and help each other. And you see that in any part of our industry, which is wonderful.
Yep.
So I know you have a new podcast. I'm really
Yes.
curious. Tell me what the name of the podcast is.
The Pet Dropshipper podcast. It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple.
And what made you want to
Um,
start that?
you know, I would have conversations with clients and customers in all different levels of conversation, and every time I would have a conversation, I'm like, I could have this conversation all day because it's, it'll come at me all throughout the week. It's
Yeah.
like, I just had this conversation. How many times do you say, I just had this conversation with two people last week? I just had
Yeah.
this conversation with somebody last week. So to me, it's about sharing the conversation, and ironically, it's evolved into a more entrepreneurial kind of conversation. So for me, I'm sharing, obviously my first podcast was like, hey, this is who I am.
Right.
But I'm sharing conversations with manufacturers. So we've had BioGroom on the podcast. We've had Savory Prime on the podcast. And those are actually pre-recorded YouTube videos. So there's actually training on there. But the real thing that made me want to do that was smaller stores are not seeing vendor reps. I was a vendor rep.
Yeah.
So how can I be a vendor rep to my customers and represent my company, but not have to see everyone all the time? Let's create some YouTube videos. Let's turn those YouTube videos into podcast. And, I'm sharing books that I'm reading. I'm sharing things that someone mentioned to me on a YouTube video that happened to just pop up about, eco-friendliness. And I'm like, wow, that really impacted me. Maybe someone else. And really my biggest one-liner for the podcast is, you never know how one sentence can change things for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes I listen to audiobooks and I'm like, God, is this book ever going to end? And then one sentence is like the aha moment for me. So, I'm constantly wanting to share in that capacity. So it's the ability for me to be a salesperson 24 hours a day, 7 days a week online.
That's awesome. And how long, when did you launch it?
I launched it, I believe, February, this past February. So it's brand spanking new. But I'm pleased to see the engagement. I do create certain little things on there that if you've listened to the podcast, you'll know there's a monthly planning calendar.
Yeah.
Having been in retail, I already know, like, if you don't have your Halloween and holiday items pre-booked now, you might fall short.
Yep.
So that's in this Excel spreadsheet. Some other factors, next month, you really need to be thinking about coats and sweaters and boots and things like that. Otherwise, you're going to fall short. Then, January comes and it's cold in a lot of states. Where are your indoor toys from Chuck It? Where are your games from Spot Ethical? These are the things and the conversations that you should be bringing up. But of course, not every pet store owner may have these experiences as long as I have had.
Right.
Or they might just, listen, we've all been there, right? They might just be so busy that it's like, I can't even catch my breath, let alone think about January.
Right.
That's what we're here for. Your salespeople and the buyers should be having these conversations with you. And the smaller stores might not be ones that are reached all the time from a vendor. So that's really what I wanted to provide doing that.
I love that. It's so great. And it's so true. You said you never know what, like in the book, like what you're going to learn, right? Or something like that. Is that what the tagline was?
Yeah, you never know what the one-liner would be in the entire book. And you're like, I wasn't interested in this entire book until they mentioned this. And then it was like a light bulb moment.
Right.
And I think that's important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say, I always say you never know what you're going to learn or who you're going to meet, right? When it comes to going to an event, being part of an association, that thing. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's so cool. Well, I have listened to a couple of episodes. I'll have to tune in more often and listen. And hopefully you'll get more people paying attention to it because that's invaluable or valuable, I should say, advice that retail store owners can listen to driving to their store, driving home, whatever, paying attention to that, and then trickling that down to their employees. Like, hey, listen to this podcast episode. This might help teach you, because there's a lot more people coming into the pet industry, opening stores, and they don't know that information. So that's really great. So, okay, I have a couple of fun questions for you. What is your favorite thing about working in the pet industry?
But it's a toss up. I mean, obviously the animals are unbelievable. I have 2 dogs myself. I want to say the people that are in the industry, having the experiences that I have, everyone is so gracious and so considerate, and everyone's always rooting people on.
Yes.
And that I really appreciate. And then obviously I love the products.
Right.
I'm very meticulous about looking at products, learning about products. I want to know, what does this do? What's the thing behind this? What makes this product great, and things like that. So it's a catch-22. I mean, everyone that I know in the industry, I just appreciate so many people. And, I've come through the industry on the shoulders of giants. And so many people have been there for me and supported me and pushed me, and that rooting is something that I always feel deep down inside. You have to pay that forward.
Absolutely.
So I would definitely say the people first, then the products.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that. I feel like we all kind of answer that question the same, as far as we always say the people, the community. It's such a great industry to be in. I know when anybody leaves the pet industry, I'm always like, no, come back. What are you doing? And then inevitably, most people end up coming back because they don't want to be away for too long. So what advice would you give somebody that's just starting to think about opening a pet business, especially a retailer?
Physical retailer, definitely look at your location, communicate with other businesses in the community, and look and see where you are going to thrive. Is there a dog park close by? Are you close to a veterinarian? Are you close to a groomer? And if you're close to a groomer, communicate with that groomer, because some groomers sell products, and, you don't want to make enemies or not frenemies, right? With anybody in the industry. So definitely do your homework, do the research, take a look at your community, take a look at, how many veterinarians are there in this town? Go to the veterinarians, schedule an appointment. If you have to pay for an appointment to sit down with the vet for a half hour with your questions, even though that's, not necessarily, you're not visiting them for a checkup with your pet, but you say, hey, I'm thinking of opening a business in town, and I'd love to schedule an appointment and pay for it. Because it's like you said, it's going to be invaluable, or so valuable, the information that you are going to get. How many clients do you have? Are they mostly dog and cat? And things like that. And then really look at your community as a whole, knowing, I always say to people, is there a gourmet grocery store? Is this a more upscale community? What kind of products are you looking to sell? Are you so knowledgeable in raw diet, but yet you're in a rural town that, mentioning raw diet, they're not really going to grasp the concept? That's not the right community. So definitely do the research. Get a think tank together of, some of those veterinarians. Create your own mastermind group if you have to.
Yeah, I love that. I'm always telling a couple of our members in the town that I live in, there's no pet store, there's no groomer. The one that was there went out of business. And I'm like, there's all these, I'm literally taking pictures and texting a couple of friends like, look, this place is open. It needs. So because they would have the foot traffic and the people that want grooming and all the things. So I'm always trying to do that. So I love that advice. I love the advice going and speaking to a vet and paying for it, because and they'd probably be a breath of fresh air for them to talk about the business versus just having a regular client that day or that time slot. So that's really great. So what is your
donuts work too, right?
Yeah, right. little food and coffee, right?
Sure.
So what is your daily non-negotiable that keeps you grounded as a business owner?
Oh gosh, my daily non-negotiable. I feel responsible for the stores that buy from us. So to not be here and ensure that their emails are getting answered and their concerns are being addressed and their orders are being processed, and it's I'm rushing it out to the FedEx guy. Hey, here's one more box. Don't forget this. I feel that accountability to know that you know my success relies on them and vice versa.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's back to the people.
Yeah.
I feel, if an order is late, I'm not happy. I want them to be successful. I just want to see them all do so well, and I feel accountable for that, because it's a domino effect, right? Anything in life affects everything. So, whether it's, my product coming in and then me packing it out and then FedEx getting it and then going on the truck and then getting to them, all those fundamental things are so important, and it's like connecting dots. So
yeah,
I feel like if I can do the best for them, it's like doing the best for myself.
that's awesome. I love that. And you're right, it is a domino effect, everything, right? For that cat to get
Yep.
that specialty pet food that was ordered from the retailer, it's not just like
Yeah.
one thing. There's a lot of pieces and elements that go to that to get that there.
Yeah.
So,
And it stresses the stores out. And who wants to be stressed out?
nobody.
And it stresses the
Absolutely
pet
not.
and it stresses the pet parent out who
Yeah.
wants who,
Which
and then
trickles down to the pet, because then the
back
pet
to
feels that stress. Yeah.
it's the reverse domino effect.
Yes, yes.
Exactly.
I love that. So you're always there for your clients. That's wonderful. So what is the best piece of advice that you have ever received, if you can remember?
So many people listening might not know this, but when I was in the pet stores in the malls, a company called Votoys was around in Harrison, New Jersey, and they made dog toys and cat toys and things like that. And the father ran the company, and he used to come into the store and deliver the stockings for Christmas because we were so busy during the
Yeah.
holiday season. He would drop these stockings off, and Mr. Hirschberg Sr., whose son is Mark Hirschberg of Multipet.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait, I know that name.
Yeah. So Mr. Hirschberg Sr., Arthur, was always so kind to me, and I could get emotional. And I says, you're so good to me, Mr. H. And he says, never forget how you treat people as you climb, because you don't know who you're talking to, and you will meet them on the way down.
Yeah.
And we always hear that, be careful how you treat people on the way up. But what he was saying to me is, you never know who they're going to be.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
I was a kid. I
Yeah.
was, 18, 19 years old. And I says, oh, thank you, Mr. Hirschberg. And I was so grateful that he came in with these stockings because we had so many customers. And I says, you're so good to me. And he goes, because you have to treat everybody the way, and the way you want to be treated, of course.
Yeah.
But when he explained to me, it was like he didn't know who I was going to become. He's
Right.
still alive today. He's like 98 years old.
Wow.
I ask for him all the time when I
That's
speak to
amazing.
Mark. It's amazing. But, it really touched my soul, because the way he said it to me, it was like a bolt of lightning. It
Yeah.
really spoke to me, because and I try to be that same way. You never know who you're talking to. You walk into a pet store and you're talking to the kid behind the counter, but that could be the owner's child who's been in that store since they're 5 years
Right.
old,
Yeah.
picking up rabbit food. And that kid knows more about dog food and cat
Yep.
food than anybody.
Yeah.
And they might only be 12.
Right.
So I
love
really
that.
think that's the most important thing, is treating people with respect, because you don't know who you're talking to.
Right. And kindness and respect are going to go a long way, I think, in
Yeah.
your business, in your life. I agree with that. That's wonderful.
It's nice
So-
to be nice.
Yeah, I know there's no reason. I'm always like, I don't get it. Just be supportive and helpful.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Is there anything else that you'd like to add about Pet Dropshipper or your podcast that I didn't ask you? Anything else that you want to share?
No, I think you've touched base on a lot of things. I'm just trying to really quickly run through my head. Anyone who wants to have a conversation with me, I have a Calendly link on the site.
Okay.
I do take 15-minute conversations. So anyone who's like really enjoyed this conversation here and really thinks that they have more questions for somebody like me, and they want to work together with us, they're more than welcome to, go to the homepage. In the dealers tab, there's schedule a call, and I have 15-minute increments that we can schedule. If they're an international customer and I see that they have the plus sign in their phone number, when they register for that, I could set up a Zoom call,
Right.
and do that. So, but of course, I don't know how many people are listening, so I do ask that, serious inquiries only,
Right.
in that sense, because there is only so much time in the day, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't waste
So,
people's time. That's another piece of advice I would throw out there 100%.
yeah, well, that's why it's important to do the research.
Yeah.
Really, really do the research. It's a great industry. It's. I mean, everyone loves pets, and if they have pets, it's a really great industry. There's a lot to learn. There's so many brands, so many manufacturers, so many foods. There's so many different facets. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely. And we'll also put your website in the comments. I think we did already so it's petdropshipper.com where people can find you and learn more about pet drop shipping, and that Calendly link for serious inquiries only. But Janene, I just want to say thank you so much for being here today. This has been so much fun, and it's been always a pleasure speaking with you.
likewise.
And I hope to see you soon. And guys, if you're watching the replay and you have a comment, please comment and reach out to Janene to learn more about Pet Dropshipper.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And stay cool out there. Thank you,
Yeah, you
Janene.
too.
All
Thank
right,
you.
bye everybody. Have a great
Bye.
day.
Peace, everybody.